packing plants started to throttle back and throughput was slowed, many people would ask me about feeding beta-adrenergic agonists such as ractopamine. Ractopamine has a very finite period of time we can feed, from 28 to 42 days at the end of the feeding period. And so as these cattle were pushed back, where maybe they were scheduled to be harvested in a week, some of those cattle weren't harvested for another 60 to 80 days. So we essentially had to eliminate the use of beta-agonist feeding in the summer months through the fall because of the unknown of when those cattle were going to be harvested. And that has really carried through today. Many of the feedlots learned alternative ways to feed those cattle, having to market those cattle in a very tight window. They've chose not to re-engage in that technology. One thing we learned of the use of beta-agonists really the last 15 years, they're not necessarily giving up anything on a carcass weight standpoint, because what they've done is they've increased their days on feed, so they're getting the cattle to the same end point that they would have, but obviously it's going to take more resources to do that. So the cost of gain during those last 3 weeks, for example, is what they're giving up, the marginal difference in cost of gain. But again, many feedlots, just from a logistics standpoint, find it easier not having to manage that extra ration with the beta-agonist, and so they've overcome that by simply adding days on feed. Prior to the pandemic, my professional estimate would be that about 75 to 80% of the cattle might have been receiving a beta-agonist. That went down to maybe 20% during the pandemic, and those 20% that were able to maintain that had some sort of an arrangement or agreement with a packer. And today we're probably at only 40 to 50% of the total because the individuals learned other alternative ways to increase carcass weight.